Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearls, directed by Gore Verbinski and stars Johnny Depp, Orlando Bloom, Keira Knightley, and Joffrey Rush, and of course is, I think now, a film that I can call a classic. The film is currently back in theaters as Disney celebrates its 100th anniversary, and it's about a blacksmith named Will Turner who teams up with the eccentric pirate Captain Jack Sparrow to save his love, the governor's daughter, from Jack's former pirate allies who are now undead. So when I found out that The Curse of the Black Pearl was going to be back in theaters, I jumped at the chance to see it on the big screen because I never got to do that back in 2003. When this film came out, I was still very much a Jehovah's Witness, and I had heard that there were undead pirates in the movie, and ghosts or demons or anything along those lines was not something I was allowed to experience in film or books or any kind of entertainment, and so being a good little Jehovah's Witness, I decided I would not see Pirates of the Caribbean Curse the Black Pearl until it came out on DVD, because I realized that other Jehovah's Witnesses were watching the movie. People I knew were going to see it. I saw it lying around on VHS and DVD at people's houses, and I was very confused about why I was the only one missing out on this. And so, despite my parents not necessarily wanting me to, I watched the shit out of that DVD. I loved the special features. I watched them over and over again, all the making-offs and interviews. I was obsessed with this film for about 3 years. I watched it every few months. I was 15 years old when the movie came out and almost 16 when I finally saw it. So I really was the perfect age for this movie, and people in my generation. It really felt like a Star Wars. Like it was that level of impact on everyone. It felt as influential as something like another George Lucas property, Indiana Jones, because not only was it a massively large epic swashbuckling adventure, but at its center was a character that had such an impact on pop culture, just like Indiana Jones did in Captain Jack Sparrow. I was reminded how silly it was that I never got to see this movie on the big screen back then, but it made it all the more exciting for me tonight when I went with my best friend to see it and experienced the movie all over again in a whole new way. And I have not seen the film in many years. It was back at the start of COVID actually, where I said to my buddy, we should rewatch Curse of the Black Pearl sometime. We just kept putting it off. And then finally, when they announced that it would be in theaters, I was glad we put it off because I got to see it again for the first time that way. And I really do think that it changes the experience, just like any film would. Hearing this score, seeing these amazing set pieces, and experiencing this story all over again in such a big way reminds you why the theater is so important. Movies like this were made for that experience. The first thing I want to talk about is Jack Sparrow. The introduction to his character is one of the best I've ever seen. The camera swoops over his shoulder. We haven't even seen his boat yet. We have no context for where we are. Then he looks down and sees that his boat is filling with water. Then we get a wide of his boat, establishing that it is by no means some massive ship that the music makes us think it is. As he's trying to get the water out of his boat, he nods to some pirates that were hung, and we realize, okay, so he's a pirate. Got it? As the music continues to be heroic and bombastic, we see Sparrow coming in towards the dock. As the camera pulls out, we realize his boat is sinking and he steps on the dock. There is not a single line of dialogue in this intro, and we learn almost everything we need to know about the tone of this character. He might think he's very heroic, as he often says, "I'm Captain Jack Sparrow," as his excuse for doing anything awesome. He doesn't even explain it. He just says, "Hey, it's me," like Han Solo in Return of the Jedi. The music that's playing in this scene might as well be playing in Jack Sparrow's head. That's how he thinks of himself. but it's not how he operates on the outside. If you're paying attention to this movie, in 1 minute this character is infinitely fascinating already, and he hasn't even said anything yet. Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow is truly one of the greatest movie characters of all time. Depp took so many risks here. He could have been portrayed in so many other ways. If you look at the multitude of actors that were offered this role before Depp got it, you understand that Disney had no idea what they were getting into. And indeed, as they began to see rushes of the film, many of them were very concerned. What is this character? Who is he? What is he supposed to be? What are you telling the audience? Will they understand this? Is this just going to be a very annoying character that nobody likes? Will anyone be able to follow the story? Little did they know that he would become such an iconic character, even being nominated for an Oscar, and multiple films would be made, and the films themselves would become about Jack Sparrow. Depp is truly incredible in this film. He strikes an amazing balance between just the right amount of seriousness and scenes that he has to be. Like when he sees the medallion for the first time and is like, "Where did you get that?" Like, you understand. I don't understand exact, okay? So like, he's not just a clown. He's not a buffoon. He's got a real agenda. He has a past, a history. He knows what that is and what it can mean. The subsequent films, I think, played a bit too much into the comedy of the character because they realized what they had. This film felt like it was floating on the razor's edge every moment with him. I believe that Gore Verbinski is a phenomenal director, and I think that the writers did an amazing job with this movie. It is essentially airtight. It doesn't feel like there's a single bit of baggage, but that being said, with another actor as Jack Sparrow, I think this would still be a very good movie. But it's Johnny Depp who made it a classic. Orlando Bloom is also really good as Will Turner. What a streak at the time to have Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and then Curse of the Black Pearl. Keira Knightley is also fantastic in the movie, and Elizabeth Swann and Will Turner are both characters who are made for each other in that they are both expected to do what they're supposed to do in their society. Don't rock the boat, so to speak. Will Turner is a blacksmith. He would never marry the governor's daughter, and she's the governor's daughter. She would never marry a blacksmith, and yet they're fated to be together because she's had a bit of an obsession with pirates, and his arc is also really interesting because he hates pirates. He's been training his whole life to defeat them if they ever show up. And when he realizes that his father was actually a pirate, and that's in his blood, it's this great conflict that comes. And that's all around these really great action set pieces that are extremely entertaining and masterfully helmed by Gore Verbinski. So this movie really does have it all. It's got great characters. One that's a standout, literally Oscar nominated. A character so good and a portrayal so good that it essentially became a brand. And it's got the romance that actually works, plus the action sequences, and a phenomenal villain in Joffrey Rush, who is sometimes outshined by depth whenever people talk about the movie. But him as Barbossa, he is truly great in the film and incredibly charismatic. Again, another performance that could easily have gone the wrong way. But Verbinski and his editors Stephen E. Rivkin, Arthur Schmidt, and Craig Wood have done a masterful job assembling this film. I'd like to talk a little bit about the score because there's an interesting legend behind it, and I was always very curious about it over the years. The credited composer is Klaus Badelt. I've liked a lot of his music in the past. I think his score for the movie, The Time Machine, the one with Guy Pearce, is excellent. He's obviously extremely talented. But then Hans Zimmer took over for the subsequent films, and I remember being like, that's interesting. That's very interesting. According to Hans Zimmer himself, he was working on the score for The Last Samurai at the time and contractually could not work on any other scores, but really wanted to work on Pirates of the Caribbean. And so in a marathon late-night session, staying up all night, he composed the theme for Pirates of the Caribbean. And the demo score can be heard on YouTube. Then he gave it to his friend, Klaus Weidel, and said, "Here, have this. You can take the credit, but you can write all the other music around the movie. I think it's one of the best musical themes ever written for a movie, and it's truly incredible that the man did it all night." That's an annoying amount of talent, man. Like, be less talented, please, just for a second. God, what I also noticed watching the film tonight is that this movie would never come out today. It is far too risky. A performance like Depp's, with the blood that's in the movie. I mean, there's actually some fairly gory moments. The fact that Jack Sparrow is actually allowed to do things that portray him as a scoundrel in the film. You just don't see Disney taking these kinds of risks anymore, and that's why it's truly remarkable that a film like this exists. You're not going to get these types of lightning in a bottle experiences as much. I mean, even back then it felt like a film like this would only come around every 10 or 15 years, and I think that's getting even bigger now, where these sort of like cultural impact movies where everybody who sees it likes it. I mean, Top Gun Maverick recently is one of those. The other amazing thing about the movie is it has that Lego movie energy, meaning that you had no idea a film based off of something like the IP this film is based off of could be as good as it is. A theme park ride. Most people probably went into this movie thinking it would be really bad, and if you look back at the critics' reviews at the time, they're not glowing. It's got a 63 on Metacritic. There are very prominent critics who thought the film was extremely bad. I don't know what movie they saw. Like, I can't imagine watching this movie and thinking, yeah, everyone did a really bad job. It's mind-blowing to me. Every department from the makeup to the production design, just everything is perfect. It's got great characters. It's got a great score. Airtight script. As I said, not an ounce of fat in this movie. Gore Verbinski, again similar to James Mangold, is a truly versatile filmmaker who will make a movie like The Ring and make a movie like Pirates of the Caribbean and then do The Weatherman and then do A Cure for Wellness. He has so much talent. I loved watching Curse of the Black Pearl in theaters, and I'm so glad that I finally got to talk about it. I've wanted to do a video for this movie for a really long time, so thank you guys so much for watching. If you've seen the film recently or feel like watching it again, let me know what you think about it, or if you have a cool story the first time you saw it. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching.